I think I covered pretty much everything important you need to know about Phantom Blade Zero up to this point, so I'll have my previous videos linked in the description. But I thought, you know what? I don't do enough breakdown style videos, despite me literally, I'm not joking, going over the latest showcase for Phantom Blade Zero 5 times. Yes, 5 times. I can't contain my excitement for this game, and it's one of those rare examples where I actually want to know as much about the game before it releases. Usually I'll just go over like the basic info in terms of like the PC requirements and console performance and the general themes and like the gameplay and story so that I broadly understand what kind of game it is. But this is the first game in a minute where I'm focusing on even the smallest details every time they show off something new. And how I want to do this is I want to separate it into 3 categories, which is like the gameplay / combat, the world building, and the story. I actually had to make bullet points this time of everything I've seen and things I remembered from past reveals to organize it a bit better, otherwise I'll just be rambling for 30 minutes like usual. But let's just get started, and I'm going in order of maybe not importance, because in every game everything is important, but from like the most interesting details per topic at least. So we'll start with the gameplay and combat. So we'll start off with something minor, but I actually instantly noticed this small detail as a recurring theme in the gameplay. And maybe I'm making too much out of this one, but I'll discuss it anyways. It seems like there's these different color attack styles, and it looks like that extends to the abilities as well. Constantly throughout all the gameplay they showed of this game, there's these either like red, white, or blue, sometimes even green and purple trails, or I guess hues, symbolizing the attacks or defenses or abilities. And I can only guess that there's an actual reason for each weapon type or ability having a particular color connected to it when you're either attacking or defending. There's also instances where we see special abilities unlocked from boss fights that have like an orange hue attached to it as well. And I think they deliberately hid this in the showcase because, as you can see here, when he's using like the straight sword, it shows a purple mist with the 2 next to it, which means that probably the weapon has an ultimate or like a powerful attack that emits a purple hue. And I think they sort of wanted to keep it a mystery as you discovered new weapon types and attacks. Unfortunately for them though, I'm sort of a nerd with this kind of stuff, and after watching this showcase for 5 times, I immediately made the connection between powerful attacks and abilities and the colors that each weapon has. This also kind of alludes to the idea that bosses or enemy types will be both immune and or weak to a certain style of attack or maybe a certain ability. I mean, you can see it right here with the flame mask lion bosses, like fire attacks, or I guess like the red attack is extinguished by this phantom edge water ability. And they talk about the use of different weapons against certain bosses to counter their defenses, which is also really good to see as well. There's going to be 30 primary weapons and 25 secondary weapons known as phantom edges. And so far at least, it looks like every weapon has a unique aspect about it, stemming from this like traditional Chinese and that theme of like Kung Fu Punk that they often talk about. Also, upgrading weapons unlocks additional attacks and techniques, but the best part about the upgrade system to weapons is you can downgrade or upgrade any weapon. Meaning if you want to use a different weapon that's still level 1, you can just pull resources from other weapons by downgrading them and putting those resources towards the upgrade for your new weapons. And you get all of your resources back that you use if you do this, which, let me say that this is one of the most underrated features a game can have, and most devs, they don't even think about this. Honestly, they go against it sometimes, which literally makes no sense. Like I liked in Control, I played Control earlier this year. It really respected your time as a player. You don't have to do 3 separate playthroughs to use, or I guess even just temporarily try out different weapons and abilities to see what weapon suits you best and what playstyle suits you best. They just let you do it in a single playthrough by giving you back everything that you put in, and that's always a massive positive for me. Is when games, they give you the freedom to either choose any playstyle from the start and upgrade off of it, or let you refund your points or something else later if you change your mind. Also, dude, every finisher, it puts a lump in my throat. Whoa, hold up, pause on that one. I mean, like, it makes me want to cry because of how good every finisher looks. I think that honestly, if I kept track of how many times I went back and rewinded this showcase to see the finishers, no joke, it would be like at least 30 times. Having really satisfying finishers is not like the most important thing about a game, but like when I go to something like God of War 2018, oh my god, it just brings everything together. It's like wrapping up a good combat system into a nice bow. especially if everything else about the combat is excellent. Now, as for the difficulty of the game, it's the same as it was back then, with Wayfarer being the easiest and very like cinematic, almost movie-like for those who aren't really interested in a challenge, but still like the feeling of like a power fantasy with fast-paced combat. They didn't go over Path Breaker, but I'd assume it's just like the default difficulty, you know, like a mix of intense combat while still giving you the ability to master it and become OP. But then we get to the Hellwalker mode, and I'm sorry, this is why I said like it keeps giving me aspects of Souls games, despite them saying that it's nothing like Souls games. They describe it as a mode where enemies and bosses adapt to your attacks and your habits of like your spacing and your timing in real time. So it can literally like reflect a real player if like you're playing a 1v1. And they discussed this back then as well, about how fundamentally different the enemy AI is from each mode, and how the enemy AI on higher modes almost functions like a PvP game. Take a guess at what mode I'm playing at launch. Yep, you damn right I'm playing this game on Hellwalker. Give me all a challenge, and let me see if I can really whoop one of these bosses' ass if he tries to adapt to me and counter what I'm doing in real time. It's just gonna be like so dopamine inducing. You can then unlock the 66 days mode, which is sort of like the Hellwalker mode, but you get 66 lives in this mode. And after that, like after the 65th death, it's permadeath from that moment forward. You gotta complete the game on either Path Breaker or on Hellwalker to unlock this mode. And again, you only get 66 lives, so you have to play very, very like cautiously. I guess we can go ahead and segue that into the next section, which is the story. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and just throw world building in there, as they're sort of like hand in hand, really. So we already know that we play as Sol, who's a former blade master for the Order. It's still not like exactly specified what the Order is, but I'm guessing they're trying to keep that sort of like a secret. As Sol gets betrayed and framed for the killing of his leader, he has to have a duel with his brother, who plunges a blade into his chest and it pierces his heart. He then gets healed by a healer known as the Flesh Sculptor, who gives him one of his tainted hearts. And we now have 66 days left to find a cure for Sol's condition, while exploring the traditional themes of Chinese like culture and wuxia, like they mentioned, which this game is based on. And you can sort of start to see why everything from like the difficulty of the game to the world building is starting to shape around this like dark Chinese culture and themes, mixed with that fast-paced kung fu style of combat in a steampunk setting. Man, that was a really long ass way to say that this game is like you have 66 days to find a cure in a steampunk Chinese environment. That was a long ass way to say that. The main location, or I guess like the main region, is called Wulin, W-U-L-I-N. I think that's how you say it. Which seems to be very like spirit bound. You know, it gives all like real like haunted vibes. Got these dangling puppets all over the place. These faceless, I don't know, like enemies and pack hounds is the only way I would describe them. And very like creepy shrines and desolate towns that give this game like the true dark fantasy feeling I think it's going for. The main hub within Wulin is Pangzhen, hopefully I'm saying that right, where there's multiple factions that you can likely be allied with or probably become enemies depending on like your choices in this area. This is actually going to be a much more like free choice type of game, despite it not being an open world game, which is interesting for sure. I've not seen too many games with RPG elements not being completely open world, but it's also not a linear game as well. There's probably just large regions you can explore one at a time, sort of like God of War, and that's probably what they mean by it not being like completely open world. I will say though, so far every location has looked drastically different from each other. Like the Bandit Valley, it looks more like urban and sort of like open terrain. The abandoned puppet warehouse is more closed in, more dark, more dreary. This massive steam powered iron tower, it looks kind of intimidating from this distance. This game somehow makes steampunk kind of creepy. I don't know how. I mean, it does mixes with Chinese themes, which that mixed with, you know, steampunk, it can have some like creepy atmosphere, but like I'm surprised it does give me that vibe somewhat. But it all looks like just very different from each other. Like each region has a different vibe and story of its own to tell. But this region is just one region we get of 8 regions in Phantom Blade Zero. And at first I was like, oh, they're showing off quite a bit now with Phantom Blade Zero. I feel like they're showing off a lot. Then when I saw like some of those maps, like the Mandate Encampment or the Mountain of Imprisonment, and we know almost nothing about those regions, it reminded me like, yeah, there's still a lot to discover because we've not really seen much of those regions outside of like a 5-second clip here or there. And if you remember, this game is posting somewhere between 25 and 30 hours, and that excludes the like completionist runs with like side quests and hidden enemies, hidden treasures, and even other activities like it shows right here, activating bells, getting weapon and phantom edges, potions, accessories, challenge locations, just all sorts of stuff that we can do outside of like the main quests. It kind of does start to feel like an open world RPG that's just broken down into 8 different like smaller pieces. And honestly, that doesn't sound too bad. I also really like the art direction with the user interface and just like the maps in general being hand painted and having that like raw Chinese aesthetic to it. It really captures the like genuine side of art that's largely removed from AAA games because, you know, if it's built in Unreal Engine, let's be honest, they all kind of look the same. But this game doesn't just look the same as your average AAA Unreal Engine game. It has some really unique art styles and direction in the art that makes it stand out. And yeah, just the more I see of this game, the more it makes me think it's more like an ARPG than strictly like an action game with mostly flashy combos, but not real like a lot of substance to it. No. This game, it has not stopped looking better and better the more they showed off of it. Honestly, I think this game might get close to eclipsing that #1 spot for my most anticipated game of the year. And I'm not even sure when I'm going to be posting this, maybe mid-September, first week of September. But this game right here is reaching levels of hype where I actually have to like calm myself down and reel in my expectations a bit, because you still can't put anything past any studio nowadays. Don't trust anyone, don't expect anything, and you'll never be disappointed. But man, like, this game is going to have to do a lot wrong for me to be disappointed because, I don't know, I'm seeing green flags across the board. As always though, let me know y'all thoughts on the latest Phantom Blade Zero showcase and what your expectations for this game when it releases. I'll probably do one last video before the launch when they reveal the official like PC requirements and console performance, because honestly that's kind of like a big ask now in the big 2026. You know, can we get some decent console performance? Can we get some reasonable PC requirements? So hopefully, I mean, we have to hold off on that, right? So like, you know, let's not get too hyped, but hopefully that all goes well in the future. But yeah, as always, like, comment, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. Let me know what you think. And anyways, that's it for me. I'll see you next time.